Hey guys, it is Spooky Noodles, and I'm here with a tag video that I wasn't tagged in, but I decided to do anyways. The original tag was created by Super Space Chick, and she's a big comic book nerd. So she created this tag called Avengers Book Tag, and this happened in June. And I'm finally finding out about it just now. And I think the questions were fun to answer, so I thought I'd give it a shot. I probably won't answer these like exactly how they were supposed to be answered, but I'm trying to do it through a horror perspective, so there's like question number 2 might not make sense, but I'm trying, so. But anyways, let's get to it, shall we? So first question is Iron Man / Tony Stark. Wow, I can't talk today, guys. Tony Stark. A book that made you laugh out loud. And I'm gonna go with The Traveling Vampire Show. I remember laughing literally out loud at my break room, and my coworker asking me what's going on, and the scene was just one where I couldn't help but laugh. There's a few scenes in this book that made me laugh, and I can't recall many of them, but one specifically is between the protagonist and his love interest, and it's between what's the main character's name? I never remember his name. I want to say it's I can't recall what his name is. Oh, Dwight. So Dwight and Slim are in a room together, and it's just this really awkward scene, but it made me laugh out loud because of the awkwardness. And what did I write down? The situation these characters are thrown into are just hilarious. I actually laughed out loud at this book, and I did. I laughed out loud at this book, and this book is just such a fun read, and I'm surprised Richard Lehman wrote this because I've read his other stuff and it's not as good. The Woods Are Dark was good, but Bite was horrible. I could not finish Bite, and I got 370 pages into that, and I'm not a quitter, so it's a pretty big deal for me to quit books. Like, I finished Bats by William W. Johnstone, and I couldn't finish Bite by Richard Lehman, so that's saying something. But that's just me. A lot of people like William W. Johnstone, so I apologize if I offend you. My dislike or distaste of him. But yeah, Richard Lehman's The Traveling Vampire Show wins the answer number 1. Alright. Captain America or Steve Rogers. A book that sends a positive message. Now, this is really, it's kind of a bleak message. And I'm gonna go with Korean Road by Brian Scott. This book was bleak, but in an important one. Its positive message is basically war is hell and veterans deserve respect. The old, they go through so much, and you shouldn't just stock them into a home and never see them. It's just, it has so many messages, well, 2 in particular that I think of, and it made me think more about the elderly, and veterans. So yeah, so we'll go to number 3, which is Black Widow, Natasha Romanov, a book with a kick-butt female protagonist. Now, I don't know if this meant like a main character or not, because the main character in this book is Dwight. He's writing in the first-person narrative, but the character in this book, Slim, is definitely a kick-ass female, and I absolutely loved reading about her. She's an archer, so she has archery skills. She's just a tomboy, and she was so much fun to read. She came into the clutch at the end, and yeah, it's just so much fun. She was so much fun to read about. The whole love interest part kind of threw me for a loop, and I didn't really care for it that much. But I understand why the author did it. He needed some pizzazz in his book, I guess. But Slim in this book is just amazing. She's my favorite female character ever. And yeah, we got Traveling Vampire Show on this list twice, guys. Next is Hawkeye, or Clint Barton. An underrated book you wish more people would pay attention to. And I'm gonna say Fear by Ronald Kelly. This book is just amazing. Like throughout the whole book, I didn't have one instant where I wanted to like quit at all. This book was amazing. I didn't want to stop reading it, but I had to at times. What did I write down? This book is seriously amazing and is the best coming of age story I've read. And like this year is when I started reading coming of age, and this is the best one I've read this year. So, you know, here's to next year. Hopefully I read more good coming of age stories, but this is one of the best coming of age stories I've ever read. So, Ronald Kelly is just an underrated author in general that should be well known by now, and I agree with that. Ronald Kelly is definitely underrated. I think Robert R. McCammon's underrated, but people know about Robert R. McCammon. No one knows about Ronald Kelly. Ronald Kelly is just as good, if not better, than Robert R. McCammon. And he deserves as much as Robert R. McCammon, like how much fans he has, and more. Because I firmly believe that Fear by Ronald Kelly is the best coming-of-age horror novel out there. You can say what you want about it, Boy's Life, whatever other book you might suggest as number one, but I firmly believe this is number one for me. And don't not knock it till you try it. It's a really good book. It might not be your number one, but it will be in your top 5 for sure. This is my favorite coming of age novel, and it's very underrated. Very much so. No one knows about it, and it's such a shame. Such a shame. Alright, now we got Hulk, or Bruce Banner. A book that made you incredibly angry, and this makes me mad just to think of. So I'm going to say it's a tie between Bats by William W. Johnstone and We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix. Both of the protagonists are super annoying, and I didn't care for them whatsoever. They had their noses in the air, and they were very arrogant characters. I did not care for the all-knowingness that the characters possessed. They were right, everyone was wrong. Even if they developed a little bit throughout the story, it still irritated the crap out of me. We Sold Our Souls, I didn't care about it one bit. I didn't like the main character at all. And not because I'm not a metalhead, because I like some metal, you know, I just wasn't a fan of the book. And in William W. Johnstone, his character is just like his way is the right way, and the whole book made him feel like some superhero, but really he was like a paranoid little freak. And just didn't care for the book. Those two books, they just made me angry. I finished William W. Johnstone and We Sold Our Souls, or Bats by William W. Johnstone and We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix, but it was really hard to finish both books. I read one and I listened to one. Really hard to finish both books. Grady Hendrix has not been winning with me, and I'm a little bit hesitant to read more by him. But he has a book called My Best Friend's Exorcism, which I have in my coming-of-age TBR. I don't know if it's a coming-of-age story, but I have it in my TBR, and I'm hoping that he redeems himself, because right now he is not in a good place on my author likes and dislikes. He's leaning towards dislike authors, and it's sad because he wrote this whole non-fiction book called Paperbacks from Hell, which I'm thinking about buying. So yeah. Next is Thor. A book with a character whose strength you admired. So I'm gonna go with, once again, Fear by Ronald Kelly, but also Boy's Life by Robert R. McCammon. And I mentioned both of these books already. One is definitely bigger than the other. You could tell. Holy cow, I didn't realize how big Boy's Life was. I listened to the audiobook, but I possessed this book too, this pocket book. I think that's what it is. Yeah, pocket. And this one's Zebra. So I admired the boys' strengths in both Boy's Life by Robert McCammon and Fear by Ronald Kelly. They overcome so many obstacles with courage I wish I could conjure up in my everyday situations. Like, this in Boy's Life, he fights a damn, well, is it a crocodile or alligator? I think it's a crocodile. He wrestles a damn crocodile, and I probably got that wrong, but it's probably an alligator. I don't care. Anyways, he fights this lizard-like thing, sewer gator. I'm gonna call it a gator. He fights this gator, and he barely makes it out with his life, but he shoves a broomstick into its mouth and makes it puke. It is my favorite scene in this book, and I wish I had the courage to do that. I know I wouldn't be able to do that in that situation. I would just let the alligator or the gator eat me. In this book, I mean, what does he not go through? His grandma's dying of cancer, his dad has shell shock from war and thinks he's like a 10-year-old boy, and his girlfriend is captured by a monster. So he's already got a lot to get through in his life. But on top of that, he has to go to Fear County in order to solve everyone's problems. And on his way to Fear County, he goes through some stuff. He goes through some stuff, guys. He every obstacle he could have to overcome, he has to overcome. And this is all just to hopefully save all three of his most important people in his life. I'm just gonna spoil a little bit and say he doesn't save everybody. It's very sad in the end, but it also has a happy ending at the same time. It's a good bittersweet ending. I enjoyed this book very much so. I almost threw this book across the room. This could have been in my angriest books, or a book that made me incredibly angry as well, because my favorite character in this book, let's just say something bad happens to him, and it made me tear up, and it wrecked me inside. So, these two boys in these two books, they go through some stuff, and they make it out alive, which I thoroughly wish I could do. So, next but not least, this is a bonus question, and it's called Loki. And it says, a book with a twist or a surprise that tricked you. And then, this is funny because I have to go with the travel. Ooh, that's a sock. Why is the sock doing there? What? Get away, sock. I'm gonna have to go with Richard Lehman's The Traveling Vampire Show. For those who've read this book, you will totally understand what I'm talking about. This one specific scene at the end. I don't even have to say it's in the end because you just know what scene I'm talking about as soon as I raise this book up. I'm gonna have to mention Traveling Vampire Show because the ending had a twist I never saw coming, and I doubt you will either. My friend was telling me how, oh, you're not gonna believe what happens in the end, and I'm like, okay, sure I won't. And it just kind of left me in awe. I could not believe what happened at the end there. And this is one of my favorite books I've ever read, so this is number 2 on my coming-of-age novels. Fear is just above it, and Boy's Life is just under this one. All 3 books I've mentioned here, all 3 books are amazing reads. I suggest you reading all 3 of these books. That's not the order they're in. This is the order they're in. First to last, or last to first. I'm not sure the way it's gonna come up on the camera, but these 3 books, not films. Well, they're kind of films. These 3 books were amazing, and this list really inspired. These books really inspired this list of questions. There was also Brian Scott's The Korean Road, which had a positive message about veterans and how we should respect them and the things they go through. It really opened my eyes, and I thank Brian Scott for that. If I'm saying his name right, I hope so. And then the angry books, I didn't really want to mention books that made me angry for that reason. Like, I could have listed Fear at that position, where I wanted to throw the book across the room, but in a good way. But I decided to go a different route and just name some things that just, upsetted me overall, and those were 2 books I mentioned. I'm sure there's a lot of people who enjoyed those books I mentioned. Like, We Sold Our Souls is like 4.5 stars on Goodreads, so, which I don't quite understand, but people like the book, and yeah, I can't fault them for that. Everyone likes different things, but Bats, there's a lot of people who like Bats, and the people who like Bats are, well, I don't want to say negative things about anybody. I'm not going to say anything negative, but I'm going to say people who like William W. Johnstone's writing usually are, like, I don't know how to say this. There's just a certain group that William W. Johnstone targets, and I'm not a part of that group, and yeah. So, yeah, his book made me angry for reasons that, it's like, you're an idiot if you don't think a certain way, and I did not like that. I don't like when you bring politics into a book, but this book decided to do that. It's kind of like King's writing. I don't like it when King brings politics into books. I know my buddy Edward Lawrence, like, oh, whatever, shut up, don't be so sensitive, blah, blah, blah. But it's different when the shoe's on the other wearer or foot, because like, reading that you're an idiot if you don't think a certain way is not fun. And even though I generally think the same as King, I wouldn't like to be reading King if I was a conservative, because a lot of things King can say is like, you're an idiot if you don't believe this certain way, and that can be frustrating to read because you don't like thinking you're an idiot, and making yourself feel like an idiot while reading is just not fun. That's just me though. That's what I got from Bats from William W. Johnstone. Just We Sold Our Souls, I just did not like the main character very much. But yeah, let me pull up the, there we go. Oh, it got dark. I'm sorry, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is just a really quick list. Well, 17 minutes long, so I guess it's not that quick. But I hope you guys had a great day and a spooky night, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye, guys.
Now I am become